Hi there. Well, I'm here again to explain the next point in the Catechism of the Catholic Church. So today we take up, oh boy, this point, number 3, and which says, the life of man, or rather, those who, with God's help, have welcomed Christ's call and freely responded to it, are urged on by love of Christ to proclaim the good news everywhere in the world. This is interesting, although we pointed it out already in some way earlier, but it is the most natural thing to do. When we correspond to God's call, when we receive any manifestation of the goodness of God, when we respond to His invitation, we are urged, as the point says, we are urged on by love of Christ to proclaim the good news everywhere in the world. The good news, that's the gospel. That's the matter of Jesus Christ, who became man and died for us, establishing a new covenant in his blood. And with that, God proves to man that he loves man so much that he is willing to give up even his only begotten Son to save us from sin. And this good news, you see, in Greek, it's evangelion, which comes from the verb that means to announce the victory or a momentous moment of an army commander, a Roman emperor, victorious in battle or victorious in one of his campaigns. He sends word ahead of him before he arrives. This good news. So the Christians adopted this term and applied this term to the victory, not just of any ordinary warrior here on earth, but to the victory of Jesus Christ over sin in order to save us. So this we have to proclaim to the others. It's a most natural thing if we understand what it means to be saved. You know, many times we learn the value of something we take for granted, only by experiencing its loss. So I don't know, I have always appreciated my mother, but I don't think I have sufficiently appreciated her. That's why when I lost her, I realized how valuable she was, how important, critical for my own formation when I lost her. That's why since that time, she passed away in 1981, I've been asking my friends, the people I meet, that they be thankful that they have a mother. And we can apply this, we can translate this to the matter of our salvation. Since we've been cradle Catholics, we've been Catholics in the Philippines for 300 plus years. The temptation to take it for granted is very big. We don't realize what we have. We complain maybe, when I was a kid, we complain about going to Mass. And it's only much later that I, having studied, and I continue to study the Holy Eucharist, I get to appreciate it. And not going to communion and not being able to say Mass. because of being sick. Like during the COVID pandemic, well, I did not have the misfortune of not being able to say Mass, of course. But all my friends who have not been able to go to church to hear Mass on Sunday, invariably, they, they miss the Mass. They look forward to go to church again. They have some kind of withdrawal symptom that they want to have the Mass. So, this thing of having the gift of the faith, we have to be very grateful for it. And only because or to the measure that we are grateful for it, in the measure that we appreciate the gift of the faith, would we be able to share it with others? I tried to um, conduct this sort of experiment on myself, that I imagine myself to have been born, let's say, in the Middle East, in an Arab country, predominantly Muslim. And most probably I would be Muslim. And I don't know. I it makes me more grateful for my faith. That although, yeah, I was baptized early on, and I grew up in a Christian environment with such pious and practicing parents, I, I took it for granted. I'm very sorry for it. Because being a Christian, to me, is much better. Not because I denigrate the Islamic faith. I, I know enough, I think, of it. And I think this is much better than what I have. And I'm very grateful I'm a Christian. That I did not have to grow up in a place as desertic as Saudi Arabia to experience those anomalous looking down and belittling of other people and what have you, and so forth. I'm very grateful that I have received the good news of Jesus Christ. I have been moved by that conversion of appreciating my faith to share it with others through my example, through my joy, through the charity I try to live with them. Although I'm very far from being perfect in it. Many failures and having to begin again. At least I have this good news, and I can begin again because Christ has died for me. He has gained my freedom. That's why I can go to confession, I can go to get God's grace again and keep going again and again. So, to spread the good news, to proclaim it to the others by my example, my joy, and especially I'd underline charity. That's the first um, good news, the first doctrine that I have to teach others, not by just talking about it, but by showing it, living it with them, with those who are perhaps difficult to love. This treasure, the point continues, received from the apostles, has been faithfully guarded by their successors. And thanks be to God. All Christ's faithful are called to hand it on from generation to generation by professing the faith, by living it in fraternal sharing. This is what I referred to with charity. First doctrine to show the others by our example that we love them, even though it's difficult to love them. And lastly, we spread it, we proclaim it to the others by celebrating it in liturgy and prayer. So these are the 4 points of the catechism, in fact. To profess the faith, to pass this faith from generation to the next by professing it, living it, and not just, treating our faith like an overcoat or a hat or something we wear and we leave it at the door when we enter a house. So we leave our Christianity, our professing the faith, somewhere else, and we live differently when we enter a certain place, a certain profession, a certain environment. What a lack of unity of life. It's like you become a schizophrenic, or, or you have multiple personalities depending on the location. It's absurd. It will be absurd. So that's the first way to proclaim it from generation to generation. We profess the faith by living it in fraternal sharing. That's wonderful. That's the best characteristic of the Catholic faith. To love, the law of charity. Because God loved us. He didn't love us because we were very good. No, He loved us because we were sinners. And He wanted, and He wants, and will always want to give us more graces. He makes us good so that we be good. And lastly, by celebrating it in the liturgy and prayer. Liturgy, which is the public prayer of the church, in Mass, in Corpus Christi processions, benedictions, bringing our Lord to the altar for adoration. These are official prayers of the church. And in private prayers, which would bring us back to professing the faith by living it. Well, if we believe in God, we talk with Him. We listen to Him because He's living. He is the living God. So thank you for listening. This is all for now, and see you next time. Bye.